Good morning. My name is Steve Dettelbach. I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio, and I'm here today with Mayor Jackson to announce the latest step in the implementation of the consent agreement between the City of Cleveland and the Department of Justice. Of course, there's been a lot of work going on since both before we signed the agreement and after, and now since Judge Oliver's approval of the agreement last month. And that approval, Judge Oliver signing the agreement, set in place a series of date deadlines, which we are striving to meet with the city. One of those deadlines was for Mayor Jackson to appoint a panel that will be the panel that selects the Community Police Commission. And the consent agreement called for Mayor Jackson to make those appointments in consultation with the Department of Justice and the City Council of the City of Cleveland. And Mayor Jackson, of course, fulfilled that obligation and was really a great partner and in working to select what you see before you, which is an incredible selection panel. I'm going to let the mayor introduce the selection panel that you see here. But I will say that I think that the mayor has done an excellent job. This is a truly, truly fantastic group. It is one that is both representative of our community as a whole, but also draws from the best in accomplishment and leadership from our community as a whole. You know, if you just sort of look, you have the chair of the Adams Board, you have the head of the Legal Aid Society, the pastor of two of the most significant African American churches, the head of two very significant civil rights groups, the president of the largest community college in the region, the head of two of the most important organizations dealing with youth issues. It's just absolutely an incredibly accomplished panel. And because of that accomplishment, I also have no doubt that they'll be truly independent in exercising their considered judgment and in working together to pick the first ever Community Police Commission for the City of Cleveland. There's a process that they're going to go through. They're going to be the ones who determine the process. They've all had experience doing these kinds of selections in various ways and shapes and forms before. There are some structures and timelines and deadlines to the process that are set forth in the consent agreement. But I really want to end by thanking them for their willingness to devote their time in what is an incredibly hectic schedule that all of them have to this very, very, very important task. I want to wish them luck. I want to wish them well. And I know that they will do an incredible job in moving this city forward. And so then it's my pleasure to introduce to you the person who selected this great group, the mayor of the city of Cleveland, Frank Jackson.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. Good morning. You know, I too want to thank the members of the selection panel for their commitment and their willingness to serve. This is some heavy lifting, and it will take some time, and according to the agreement is very specific as to what their responsibilities are and the time period in which they have to do it. So they have to do a lot of work in a short period of time, but they're up to it. As Mr. Dettelbach has said, this is the first step in our reform effort, to really the execution, implementation of reform in Cleveland. And to do that, we had to select a panel that we believe that would be very good in selecting the commission, who will have a significant role in the reform as we move forward over the next four years. So I would like to introduce one by one the people who have been selected. Gabriel Celeste, Director of the Child Policy, Schubert Center for the Child Studies, Case Western Reserve University. Eugenia Cash, LSW, MSSA, CDCA, Chair of the Alcohol, Drug, Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County. Eugenia, there you go. Reverend Jawanza, Dr. Jawanza Colvin, pastor of Olivet Institutional Baptist Church. Colleen Carter, Executive Director of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. The Reverend Jimmy Gates, pastor of Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church. Anita Gray, Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League. Phyllis Harris, Executive Director of the LGBT Community Center of Greater Cleveland, Dr. Alex Johnson, President of County Community College, Ron Richard, President and CEO of the Cleveland Foundation, Victor Ruiz, Executive Director at Esperanza, and Timothy Tramble, who is not here. He had to take his daughter, I think, on a trip to some college visits, but he is the director of Burton Bell Carr Development Corporation. Again, these are the members of the selection panel, and their duty and responsibility is to select the members and make those recommendations of the members of the Civilian Police Commission, and to do that in a specific time. So again, I want to thank them for their willingness to serve. Thank you very much. So we're open for questions. Mr. Questions?
Time frame to select the commission.
I think it's 60 days. I think the, and this is something I hope that you'll report, because we want to start. The one thing that the community police selection panel expressed is that they want to get moving, and they want people to they want people to understand this. So applications, people will have approximately 30 days to apply. They're going to get together very soon and put together an application process that will be public, so people will understand what the application process is. And then after that, there's a month to select. So this is a process that's going to begin in the next week or so. I think that's the goal, at least, of the selection panel. And again, I really hope that people will hear this. People who are interested in serving on the first ever Community Police Commission are going to have a chance to apply to this selection panel in an open process to be able to be picked. And we hope that people are paying attention, and people who are interested and capable, are residents or work in the city of Cleveland, will volunteer to serve.
I was curious, there were so many qualified people who were interested and suggested to be on this panel. I don't know how you would choose from all the people there. So how did you choose these folks from all of the people who were suggested?
Well, we just attempted to pick who we believe were good people. Like you said, almost all of the people who applied would be good candidates. But what we did between myself, the U.S. Attorney, and some input through City Council, we decided on this group. So it was no formal kind of way of doing it. There was no formal way of doing it. I know that doesn't answer your question, but it's a matter of making decisions, because we could have been bogged down even now trying to decide the best of the best.
What set these folks apart?
Well, we know them in some respects. They're part of organizations that Mr. Dettelbach mentioned in the beginning. He outlined how we have representatives from various cross range of different organizations and different advocacies, different points of views, and we know them to be honorable people and people who have paid their dues and have done great work in the community in terms of serving a particular focus on particular groups or advocating for different things. And so they're people of good report and people that the community would be supportive of and give credibility. That's our main concern. Would this be a group that the public, whether they agree with that individual being on there or not, or maybe they applied and they didn't get it, but they say, you know what, I don't mind because I know this is a good person. And because we want the group to be credible, we want the process to be credible, because we want to have a credible outcome to this.
Now, I know it was up to you and DOJ to choose these folks, but in terms of the consent decree overall, there's been some criticism from the NAACP and the union saying we don't feel like we were involved enough in the process at the very end. How would you respond to that criticism that they didn't get to have the input they had hoped to have?
Well, everybody would like to have had more input, I guess, in some kind of way, but we're in a consent decree now, and maybe we would not be in a consent decree if we were just ongoing. There has to be a time in which you make a decision. And so it was not to the exclusion of anybody or to to belittle anybody's opinion or input. There was significant input from the public and different organizations. Many of them gave us written suggestions as to how they should proceed. We adopted many of those things as we negotiated through the consent decree. So there was input. Maybe they weren't sitting at the table, but there was significant input from people that we considered. Could you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I want to echo what the mayor said, and to add that, if you look at the group before you and the process for picking this group, the consent decree did not require us to take suggestions from the community in order to pick this group. It required that the mayor pick it with consultation with City Council and DOJ. And we decided, again, I think as we have the entire time we've gone through this process, to try and have broader input even beyond that. And we put out a public request for people to suggest ideas and names to us. Many of the people you see here were people who were recommended. There are people on this panel who have taken various positions over time with respect to the things that needed to happen with respect to reform. There are people here who have agreed with us. There are people on this panel who have disagreed with us over time. And there are people on this panel who have taken positions that are different from other people who are standing here. And so I think that the message needs to go out that this always has been and always will remain an inclusive process where the opinions of people who are part of this community are taken into account. But this is a community of several 100,000 people. And so every person's opinion is not going to get to decide the end result. And each and every person doesn't get to write the consent decree or have things look exactly the way they want them. And that balance between taking public input and making good decisions that stand the test of time is one that now this panel is going to have to enjoy striking. And I'm sure that they'll do an excellent job in fulfilling that obligation. Yes?
Will the ultimate size of the commission be dependent on applications? And can you remind us of any stipulations?
No. The ultimate, there's going to be 13 people on the Community Police Commission. 3 are going to be picked by the 3 police organizations that are named in the consent decree. The CBPA, the FOP, and the Black Shield. They have their own selection process to pick those 3. The other 10 are going to be picked by the people that are sitting behind you, that are standing behind me, I'm sorry, the people that are standing behind me, and those 10 are going to be picked by them in their independent judgment based upon some categories of the types of communities that need to be represented, which are laid out in the consent decree. There's 8 of them. I would point out to you 2 things. First of all, you asked about the mayor selections here. The one word I would use to describe this group is independent. There's no way that you pick a group like this without understanding that they're going to do what they think is best, not what you think is best, and that's what I expect of them. I expect them to do what they think is best for the city. And with respect to the categories, you often find out as you do looking at this group that there are people who may fit several different categories of things that are set forth in the consent decree. And that's great too, because each person can bring several different attributes to bear on the work of the commission and on the work of the selection panel.
Could you talk about how you what you envision the Community Policing Commission will do, what influence it will have in terms of consent decree, in terms of reform? So in practical terms, what do you see the Community Policing Commission doing?
Well, so it's not. So I don't want to get into answering a question verbally that is set forth in such detail in the written documents that have been public already for quite some time. So if you read the consent decree, you will see that there are numerous tasks and roles that are set out for the Community Police Commission. I think it's in paragraphs 16 and 17, beginning of the consent decree. So 17, 18, 19 is where I would start, because that's the things that talk about what the Community Police Commission must do, and then things that they can do. Hold on. And then all throughout the consent decree, and I know it's not easy to report a story like that because it requires reading 105 pages and going through, but to ask me to sort of summarize it, I'm going to leave something out. It is extremely important. If you look at the role that the Community Police Commission is now designated by federal court order, they have a wide range of different things that they will be required to do. And then beyond that, some things that they're allowed to do if they wish to do it. And so it's going to be, I think, a really important body both in practical governance of the things that need to happen in policing, but also in terms of setting a tone for the community of repairing and improving the relationship between the police and people in the community. And I would point out that, to my knowledge, this is the first, if not one of the first, if not the first body in Cleveland where people who are police officers are now formally sitting on the same body as will be people who are representatives of individuals from the community. So they'll have to learn to work together over time, which I think in and of itself is also important. Yes.
I know that you mentioned a little bit of, I guess, criticism, and I guess some of that criticism has been formalized in a brief filed in front of the judge. One of the pieces they're asking the judge to, I guess, look at is maybe tinkering a little bit with the Community Police Commission. Do you anticipate those changes, anything set forth in that brief to actually affect the work that this commission will be doing?
Well, I don't think that the things set forth in a brief will affect the work that this group does unless or until the federal judge who signed the order. So the two documents you're talking about, one of them is a brief that's filed in court. The consent decree is an order that's been signed by the judge that governs the conduct of this group and the mission of this group. That's what they'll do. They'll follow the court's order. And individuals who express whatever opinions they want to express are obviously welcome to express them. Obviously, all of us will look at and read these things. And the opinions of the community have been important so far in sort of formulating what happens, and they will continue to be important in the next steps. But no, nothing that somebody outside the court says is going to influence the work that these people have to do under the court order that allows this group to be formed. So they're going to have their own process, though. So whatever they choose to do and however they choose to do it, this group will make those decisions, not me. Mayor, I don't know if there's anything more you want to say.
No, you got it.
Okay. Hold on. I don't think you've had a chance yet.
Could you discuss some of the requirements for the applicants for the commission?
Well, I think that the requirements for the applicants are going to be set by these people, not by me. There's what's in the consent decree, and these individuals and this panel is going to be the one who decides what kind of individuals they're picking for the commission. So I would leave that. I wouldn't presume to say anything about that.
Does each panel person select just one candidate? How does that work? And how many hours do you expect them to do the research to select?
Well, I don't know about the hours. I don't want to set,
I know that's 6 days, but...
So I think it'll be a lot of work because I think a lot of good people will be interested. And the way that they decide internally to pick the different people on the commission, again, is their business. They're going to be the ones who decide how they make these appointments.
Where are they going to be housed?
Again, we've appointed them. Now they're independent. From this point on, we will help them if they need some staffing and to help them do what they need to do. But from this point on, they're really independent from us in the sense that they will be able to select, develop the application, set the criteria, and select the type of people that they want on the commission. And if they want to be meet somewhere, I'm pretty sure they'll let us know it. We can accommodate that. But we're not running this. They are running it, and we will help staff them and help to make them successful.
Has this group met yet before, or chosen chairman or president, whatever they would call it?
This is the first meeting. I handed them their appointment letters this morning just before the press conference. They will decide what they do from this point on. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.